Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 87 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. Have you ever found yourself needing to sharpen a really fine blade and kind of at a loss as to how to do it? Well, I might have a solution for you today, and if you want to see what that is, all you have to do is stay tuned. Well, sharpening a fine blade, for example, when I'm doing inlay, I like to sharpen my Exacto knives. They are really sharp when they're new, but this system that I use makes them, I would almost say, lethally sharp. Puts a wonderful edge on. Now, this is the machine that I built, but I did not invent this. This is not mine, and this is something that the carvers would use. This is for sharpening carving knives and things like that. I am not a carver, so I've been influenced by a few carvers, and I've taken that knowledge that they have and I've applied it to things that I do. But there is a rich carving heritage in this area. Cam Merkel, the same person that basically came up with the razor tip wood burners that you use. Cam is an amazing bird carver. In fact, he's internationally recognized. And yeah, there is a rich heritage here. But like I say, I've never really been interested in carving. My only interest in carving came from when I was teaching kids, and I had massively large groups, and I needed something to keep kids occupied, and carving, seemed to be one thing that I was interested in doing. But I only got into carving a little bit, number one, to teach my kids, and I had dreams of being a master furniture builder. And I really wanted to do cabriole legs with a ball and claw foot on them. So I dabbled in carving a little bit. I carved a kind of nice shell-shaped jewelry box, jewelry box for my wife, and a couple of those computer mice. They were little mice that would look over your computer screen, and they were kind of cool to carve. And yeah, I did a couple of those. But carving never grabbed me. But I think it's important to look at how other disciplines handle things, like, for example, sharpening, and then look at how I could apply that to things that I was doing. And of course, the inlay thing came up, and then away we went. So I happened to be, when I was teaching, I was just starting out. I was at a business in Saskatoon at the time called Wooden Works. And Barry Robson was there that day at Wooden Works. He was one of the owners. And I came in, and they had quite a nice little library section there, videotapes. And I'm asking him all these carving questions. And eventually he just got kind of tired of me because, he sells stuff, but I don't know if Barry was an expert carver either. And he says, well, there's a guy upstairs teaching a class. Why don't you just go up there and talk to him? And of course, I didn't want to interrupt the class, so kept asking questions. And finally, all of a sudden, Barry was gone for a while and came back down the stairs with this gentleman. And he says, well, we're carving upstairs. Come on up. So that was my introduction to Ron Davidson. Ron invited me to his carving class, and his students are all working away, and he's showing me everything. And one of the things he showed me was this carving sharpening setup. And I really like it because, like I said, for me, I sharpen my fine blades, like things that are too light, really, to go to a grinding wheel. And maybe now with CBN, you'd get away with some of the sharpening, but I think CBN even would be too aggressive to do this. So Ron introduced me to this carving sharpening system, and he also invited me to the Woodworkers Guild. So, uh, yeah, if not for Ron, I don't know, I probably wouldn't have joined the guild when I did. But like I said, I use this for sharpening my finer blades, and it works really quite well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my camera off the tripod, and I'm going to hold it here, and I'm going to walk you through how I made this thing. There are a couple of things that I think are relatively important, like for instance speed and how I laid it out. But like I said, this isn't something I invented. Ron was carving with lots of other people at the time, so I would suspect this is something he picked up from somebody else. I don't know, but so it's not like I invented it, but I have learned to use it to do some things that are very specific to my development in craft. So hang in there, I'll be right back. All right, and there it is. So let's start at the back of it. We'll go to the motor first. Okay, this is, I believe this motor is off of a furnace blower. So it's a half-horse motor, 1725 RPM, and it's plenty for this. This isn't a high demand system, and I suspect it's a motor that I had. I built this thing quite a few years ago, so yeah, it's probably something I had on hand. I'll get you over to this side here. It's a half-inch shaft on this motor, so and I have a 2.5-inch pulley here, and it connects to the sharpening assembly via, I think it's an A29 belt. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I'm shaking you all over the place. An A29 belt, so I think that's a half-inch belt. And I basically mounted this on two 4x4 steel pieces of rectangular tube. It's 1/4-inch wall. It's fairly heavy. I used to get scraps from a local manufacturer for the school shop, so I appropriated a couple for this. But 2 blocks of wood would work just fine. You need to have pretty much 4 inches under here to get clearance for the 8-inch wheels. So this has basically a 5/8 mandrel on pillow blocks. Okay, it runs fairly nice and smooth here. I'll show you. You know, it runs pretty good. So, yeah, and okay, let's get back to the pulley system and the gearing. This is somewhat important. First of all, you'll notice that this machine is running, I guess if you're looking at it from this side here, it's going counterclockwise. You want the sharpening action going up and away with light small blades like this, at least I do. 2.5-inch pulley there. This is a homemade 7-inch pulley. I turned this all, some of it on the lathe, and I'm wondering if some of it, like I did this a long time ago and I kind of forget the details, but I wonder if for some of this I might have just bolted it on and made a little rest here and turned it with this, but I'm not sure. It could have been on my lathe as well. But yeah, this is a 7-inch MDF pulley, and that with a 1725 motor, I think this is about 620 RPM if I did the math right. So, and the wheels are 8-inch. And this side is just an 8-inch wheel. There's no pulley on it. And it mounts to the mandrel using standard, grinder style flanges and nuts. So it's pretty straightforward that way. On mine, I mounted a little soft buffing wheel in the middle just to clean up the tools. It's actually wore down a bit. It should be bigger, but I'll just keep using it, and when it wears out, I'll put another one on. What's on the wheels? That is a good question. This one is 400 grit sandpaper. Now, Lee Valley used to sell, I don't know if they still do, it was called a turning roll, and it was a roll of, I think, 400 grit, or could you get it in different grits? But this is 400 grit sandpaper, and I glued it to the wheel with contact cement. And there's a scarf joint in here somewhere. This paper really should be replaced. It's ultra fine, although for my Exacto blades it does a really good job yet. I'm really happy with it. And on the other side we've got leather. So this is a leather belt that I got at some craft place, and I glued it on with the rough side out, and eventually it's wore really nice and smooth. I don't know if rough side in or rough side out would have been better, but this is what I did, and it worked. It seems to be working just fine. So it really does a good job of honing that sharpening that you did on the sandpaper wheel. Uh, I usually use green compound on this, and unfortunately I was looking for my block of green compound and I couldn't find it. So uh, my son has talked about getting into turning or into carving, so I think I actually sent it with him. But anyway, that is what I would do. Now there's a switch on the front, I don't know where this switch came from. It's like nothing else I've seen. Maybe I bought that somewhere, I don't know. And then we're just going to take, and I should have maybe unplugged it for this because it's probably not safe doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to flip it over and let you see the bottom. Okay, so the bottom power cord's running in here, runs to the switch, makes connection to the switch, comes back underneath, and goes to the motor. So, and then it's bolted on with carriage bolts. I believe these are 5/16 carriage bolts. And it's on a 3/4 inch piece of used plywood, and I put an oak edge on it. So that's all there's to it. It's not that hard to build. If you would want to make your own version of this, and if you work with carving tools or light blades like I do, that it might be something really worth your while to uh, sit down on a weekend and create this. So anyway, I think that's a pretty good tour of the machine. So if I left something out and you have questions about this, please leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. If I wasn't going to do that. Okay, well, I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen this Exacto knife here. And yeah, so what I do when I use this thing, I have a little bit of water here, and I put some water on the sandpaper. And holding the tool at the correct angle is the challenge. So it might take me a little bit to find that, but I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to get water sprayed on me. And I'm going to find that angle. Ah, it's pretty close. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Starting to get a shine. And then the other side of the blade. And a little bit of water would be nice. I shouldn't be doing this on my table saw area because I'm going to have to make sure that I get all the water off of the castings and the steel because I hate having to sand rust off of things. Okay, we're just going to touch up this side again. And then this side again. I think I've got it. and then we're going to clean it up on, I really should have compound on here, but since I don't have my compound here, that looks really good. Yeah, that is nice. So I don't know. Off camera I played with this, and this isn't like a knife with a long blade when you cut it like that. But let's see what we got here. It's not bad. It's it's probably mostly me because I'm trying to watch through the camera here and I cut at the same time. Another quick way to sharpen these is to simply sharpen the back, the spine. It seems to make a nicer point, and that works really nicely on here as well. And you can get pretty much any profile you want here. Okay, just going to clean it up. And I think, hang on here. Yeah, that to me, that's looking pretty good. That would cut nicely into a piece of ebony for a guitar fretboard for doing etching your inlay. Once you have your inlay cut and you have it sitting on the guitar peg head, fretboard, whatever, and then you're cutting around it so that you can prepare to route. This will work really well. Okay, now we're going to get ready to close this off. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little diversion into the carving side of sharpening. I really like sharpening my Exacto blades. I don't really have any carving tools, so I can't really do a carving tool demo for you. And I know carvers, a lot of them will sharpen by hand or whatever, and that's all good. But I really like this setup, like I said, for sharpening my fine blades. And for me, that I like to do inlay, having a razor sharp Exacto knife is really important. So that's why I like this system. So I'm hoping that maybe you see some place that you could use something like this and maybe create your own version of this. Well, that's about all I have to say on this machine tonight. So yeah, I would like to thank the carvers that I know, Cam for constant support for when I was doing cancer fundraising events for Turners. Could always count on Cam to donate a burner to the cause. And last but not least, to Ron Davidson for getting me involved in the Woodworkers Guild and all the wonderful things that I discovered because of that. So with that in mind, I would just like to say thank you for watching, and remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you again on the weekend. So take care, everybody. Have an awesome week.